Our next guest is alive due to a last-minute rescue from what would have been being burned alive in a satanic sacrifice ritual by the New World Order elites. Her phenomenal story in part 1 sets the stage for this jaw-dropping part 2, where we expose more about who is behind the corruption at the deepest levels around this globe. From the Catholic Church and the Clintons to the fraudulent leaders behind NAFTA, we are back with Cathy O'Brien, survivor of MK Ultra mind control. This is the Counterculture Mom Show. I'm Tina Griffin. And after 25 years of hearing about the Bohemian Grove and seeing horrific photos of satanic practices which take place there, all during my decade-long career in Hollywood, I'm more than ready to have this hero on our show today, exposing all of it. Cathy says it all. Our world has been shaped by pedophiles, perverts, criminals, and global elite powermongers for decades. Bringing these dark secrets into the light of conscious awareness is imperative for diffusing the powers that have been in control of us, our information, our government, and our children for so long. So once again, it is my special treat, honor to have Cathy O'Brien, survivor and victim of MK Ultra, doing part 2 to help us connect more dots on what's really going on around this globe with brainwashing. Cathy, thank you so much once again for jumping on the program for part 2.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for amplifying my voice with your brilliant voice. I really appreciate this.
Hey, it's the least I can do because you have the story that everyone absolutely needs to hear. It's stuff that I've been trying to tell people for decades, but you have the background, the experience, and the fact that you survived almost being executed. I mean, people are going to definitely listen to what you have to say. So in part 1, those of you tuning in right now, if you did not listen to part 1, you are missing out. Pause, stop, go to part 1, listen to that first so you understand why we're addressing these issues in part 2. Cathy, I can't do interviews in one program with still 15 questions left. So thank you for helping me connect the dots with this round 2 that we've got here. I wanted to ask you, you addressed in part 1 about the Catholic Church, the manipulation, the abuse, how that was all tied in. We've got Hitler, the people after World War II that were doing experiments on people, the MK Ultra mind control on people out there in Germany. They were brought to the US. I have been doing research on that as well, so we're talking the same language. Can you give more details on how that happened? Our government brought them over from Hitler years to America. How did that happen? Who was behind it, and why did they do it?
Project Paperclip, I encourage everyone to research every single word that we discuss, because the more they research for themselves, the more they know. And the more they know, the more they'll see that it's inexcusable that we allow this New World Order agenda, which ultimately is exactly what it is, the New World Order agenda, to go on any further under the guise of a so-called global reset, where a handful of big guys make all the money and we do all the work. It's a slave society agenda. Mind control is needed for ushering it in. So World War II was not won. It was brought over to the U.S. with Project Paperclip under the guise of so-called national security. It was kept secret and under wraps, and the Nazi and fascist scientists were moved into key positions, whether it was at NASA or in mental health aspects, because they wanted to control the information that people had on mind-brain functions so they could control the minds of the masses. This is an ongoing, very deliberate, laid out strategic plan. It's a 100-year plan that's nearing its end. And it is what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, and now Joe Biden term the New World Order.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We could talk 5 hours just on Project Paperclip. Where can people go to read more about Project Paperclip and see how all the dots connect?
Well, there are books on the subject, and they can certainly look into more information through Access Denied for Reasons of National Security and Transformation of America. My testimony for Congress details a lot on the New World Order agenda, and it was such a warning. It was in 1995 that testimony came out, and if it hadn't been censored by national security, if everybody had heard it, we wouldn't be experiencing what we're experiencing today, because it laid it all out, including who was going to be put into the office of president to usher it in. So we need to arm ourselves with that knowledge and realize that what is new to us today has been going on a long, long time.
I've been researching this for 27 years, but there's a lot of people out there that just started researching when COVID hit. And I've had lunch, dinner with some of my friends in Nashville here, or when I'm traveling and speaking, and they would tell me what they learned in 2 years. You can learn a lot in a little bit of time. It will be revealed to you. Don't feel overwhelmed. The more you dig in, and then the more you're going to understand, and then share it with everybody you know. Get some groups together and talk about these issues, because knowledge is power. Your website is trans-formation.com. Once again, trans-formation.com. All right, Cathy, I have another one for you. You mentioned in part one something to do with the Clintons and that you had close ties. Were the Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton, a part of your abuse trauma?
Absolutely. They were part of extreme trauma abuse base. In 1977, I think Bill Clinton was still Attorney General. It was even before he was governor. He already had his Clinton Coke lines operation in place. The CIA is heavily involved in the cocaine industry, and Bill Clinton was really very much ahead of that. Hillary Clinton was paralleling the Clinton cocaine operations with occultism and human trafficking aspects. So I was exposed to the Clintons very, very early on while I was still within my occult trauma base, Wayne Cox. So they're horrific people. Wayne Cox is a CIA assassin, occult serial killer that was being used by the Clintons to run cocaine. Bill Clinton's half-brother Roger Clinton was in Wayne Cox's cult, because again, Satanism is a blood trauma that's horrific, and trauma is the basis of mind control. And so people like myself were being subjected to horrific trauma so that I couldn't think to tell the secrets that I was being forced to participate in and that I was exposed to, like the Clintons' involvement so early on.
Cathy. When I was 16, I think I mentioned that in part one, I watched a VHS copy that a guy in church gave me. He was in his 70s and said, God told me to give this to you. It was called The Clinton Chronicles. And in it, it talked about the corruption of Bill Clinton, a governor of Arkansas at the time.
On January 20th, 1993, William Jefferson Clinton became the 42nd President of the United States. At the time, most Americans were not aware of the extent of Clinton's criminal background, nor were they aware of the media blackout, which kept this information from the public. As State Attorney General and later governor, Bill Clinton in 12 years achieved absolute control over the political, legal, and financial systems of Arkansas. As president, he would attempt to do the same with the nation by bringing members of his inner circle with him to Washington. The hijacking of America was underway, and its impact on future generations would be incalculable.
And I even heard about people that came into discovering what he was doing, like some young children that saw what they were doing. And correct me if I'm wrong, him and his posse, his cohorts, tied these two young kids to railroad tracks and they were killed. Did you ever hear that story?
I absolutely am familiar with that story. That is Wayne Cox MO. That was how people were killed, and that was what was done at the time. That was during the time when he was tied with Roger Clinton, and they were running cocaine and also adrenalized blood, which is a precursor to adrenochrome. So that's been going on a long time. This is horrific occult trauma, horrific abuses that the Clintons have been involved in for so long. I don't know. It's inexcusable that they continue to be free when so many people have been victimized by their human trafficking and drug operations.
And then the sad, sick thing about all this is so many people are so corrupt with government officials, with people running Hollywood. You've got the people that are in the judicial system. So when you have so many corrupt people running the high leadership positions in our country or influential positions, it's no wonder that justice is not prevailing, but we have a highlight here, a positive to how you got out of it and your life was spared. We're going to find out what that all entailed right after a word from our sponsor.
Optimize your health. Protect against chronic disease. The most powerful antioxidant on the market. 172 times stronger than vitamin C. A breakthrough formula called C60 Complete, containing the purest combination of the world's healthiest ingredients. 28,000 positive effects published in research. Backed by top scientists and leading researchers. A patented NASA-grade formula that comes in easy-to-swallow gel capsules. Get $5 off your order by going to counterculturemom.com and using promo code TINA.
All right, Cathy, we just gave people a heart attack here, and I know they're at the edge of their seats listening to part one, now hearing this, putting some pieces together. We got to get to the positives. You're alive because I believe a hand of God was on your life so you could share and expose this monstrosity of a demonic plot from the pit of hell to millions of people around this globe. Take us quickly through your years of abuse and then up to the point of when you were heading to the Bohemian Grove and you were supposed to be burned alive. How did it lead up to that point?
Well, I think a quick jump of information on that would be that the CIA's involvement in cocaine operations across the border was a part of the criminal activity that the New World Order is rooted in and what NAFTA was rooted in. So I was being used for the groundwork of NAFTA, which was very, very criminal, very, very dark. And I was to be killed for what I knew about that. I'd been exposed to then President Miguel de la Madrid and Carlos Salinas, who was his vice president. Salinas actually was running things during Madrid's reign the same way that Bush ran Reagan's administration. The power of those people was absolutely horrific, and I was exposed to so much information on the groundwork of NAFTA that I was to be killed for that. It was an assurance that their secrets would be forever safe. So many government secrets and personal reputations were staked on the belief that I wouldn't be able to heal, to remember the things I'd been tortured to forget. But they never considered the strength of the human spirit. They never considered the power of love. They never considered what would happen when someone like Mark Phillips, who was outraged at their dark agenda, would rescue me right on my way to Bohemian Grove, where I was to be filmed and murdered at, ritualistically there to prove that the secrets would die with me. Well, I'm telling all instead. So I'm alive and I'm here. It's got to be for a reason, and I'm going to live that shared life's purpose that Mark and I had and bring this truth to light, because knowledge is our defense against mind control. As we take back our lives and our communities, as we take back our personal and national sovereignty, we need to uproot this may be looking new to us, but it's not new. The roots run deep, and I'm exposing the roots of this corruption so that we can move forward in light of the loving lives we were meant to live.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. I've got more questions for you. Surprise, surprise. What kind of abuse did you live through, and how many years did you live through that?
Well, the sexual abuse was horrific. The mental abuse was something I hope everybody, NLP should be taught in school, neuro-linguistic programming. It's the language of the subconscious. Our conscious mind critically analyzes. It sorts through information, questions things, tosses it out. The subconscious does not. So that subconscious manipulation was very horrific in itself, and it prevented me from being able to have my own conscious free thought. And without any conscious free thought, I had no free will, no ability to save myself, no ability to protect my own daughter. And for me, of all the physical and psychological horrific tortures and traumas that I endured, there is nothing more horrific than knowing that my own daughter was being abused and I couldn't protect her. Everything I did under MK Ultra mind control after my daughter was born was in an under the illusion that I might be protecting her. I never was able to protect her at all. She was horrifically abused as well, and that was extremely traumatic.
Here's my biggest thing. I don't want you to take us back and give us graphic details of what happened to you. You were sexually molested probably thousands of times over the course of what, 2 or 3 decades?
Yeah, the first 30 years of my life. Yes.
30 years of your life, they wanted to kill you because of all these secrets, all these high elites, past presidents. You named off a bunch in part one. You named several here. Leadership positions. Did you ever have a tie-in with Hollywood?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think one of the most important keys is that whenever trauma occurs, then we're all more suggestible. And that's when controlled media manipulates our minds. Like while we sheltered at home and they told us that violent burning of our cities was a peaceful protest, you know, they manipulate our minds at a time like that. So Hollywood needed to be controlled. When the Kennedy assassination occurred, and Gerald Ford was the head of the Warren Commission that supposedly investigated it. The nation was traumatized. And Gerald Ford's press secretary was Jack Valenti. Jack Valenti was head of the Motion Picture Association of America. He ran Hollywood. He decided what movies were going to be shown, what information we were going to be allowed to see. And he was one key player at the time. And it expanded beyond that to control over Hollywood in order to control the minds of people. Information control is a form of mind control. And our information has been altered for a long, long time. And Hollywood is responsible for much of that.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm dying to find out this question. For people tuning in thinking, well, MK Ultra mind control could never affect us. It affects every single person if we're living on this globe because of what you just said. It's major indoctrination, major nasty evil plot that's been going on for decades. As far as you getting involved, it was your father that released you or handed you over for this MK Ultra mind control and sexual trauma that happened to you for 30 years. But other girls and young boys walking on the streets of America today, could someone that's the head of, I don't even know how this all works, you can explain it to me, that's the head of an elite part of society, like if you want to get into the Illuminati and all that, do they just like scout out, we want that boy right there, and they're looking at the playground and grab them? How do they find their victims?
Many times through the school system, because children who are highly suggestible have most likely been abused. So that's one area that was heavily targeted. Our school system was totally infiltrated with what was termed global education, which is really where Hitler's youth left off. It was brought in 1984. I worked under Education Secretaries Bill Bennett and Lamar Alexander, a Jesuit and a Satanist. Same thing, really, because our ultimate goal was mind control of the children through this global education program. It's been since termed Common Core. And we're seeing results of that and what it has done to destroy the minds of so many children who have been indoctrinated through that aspect. But that is oftentimes where children are targeted and where they're identified as being potential targets for MK Ultra mind control.
Okay, so we obviously are on the same page with the fact that they're under mind control while they're in school all day, with their
Yes.
are being programmed to be robots, like you said. Absolutely. Anyone tuning into this, if you're new to our program, the Counterculture Mom Show, you must go to counterculturemom.com, click on our previous episodes, jump onto our social media, because I talk about the Great Reset last fall, the cashless society coming up. I talk about end time prophecy. We talk about the indoctrination in our school systems with Common Core. So if you want more information on that, look at our previous episodes. All these dots connect. It's a big honking puzzle that is coming together. Cathy, you're a big piece of that puzzle. We're going to find out more about how Cathy was rescued from minutes of being burned alive at the Bohemian Grove and how her mind was healed through the process of restoration through several dear friends in her life, right after a word from our sponsor. Approximately half of all kids are exposed to porn by accident. However, you can help your child quit porn or never even start by having accountability. The Covenant Eyes app monitors your child's devices, while the Victory app gives you a comprehensive feed of their device activity and alerts you if explicit material is accessed. Get Covenant Eyes free for 30 days by texting the word VICTORY to the number 66866. That's VICTORY to 66866. Let's keep our kids porn free. Cathy, I'm dying to find out your minutes from arriving at the Bohemian Grove. Take us back to that day. Who's in the car with you? What was their agenda? How were they going to sacrifice you, for the details that you knew? And how was that stopped?
Well, oftentimes at age 30, people start remembering repressed memory where the neuron pathways shut down in the brain. They start to open then because there's electrochemical changes that happen in the brain. And we'll see that a lot of like Disney, Hollywood entertainers will start remembering things around age 30. And that's when they fall apart. They just kind of sproing and they're sent off back to Disney World for reprogramming or whatever, because that's just the way our brains work. So I was turning 30 and I was to be executed for what I knew about the groundwork for NAFTA. Mark Phillips came in and rescued me out of that situation before I was taken to Bohemian Grove. He rescued my daughter and I, while my handler at that time was Alex Houston. He was a ventriloquist, stage hypnotist in the country music industry. He was a pedophile, heavily involved in MK Ultra. He was over at Boys Town in Nebraska, just sexually abusing children, where MK Ultra mind control was proliferating there. While he was off on that perversion, Mark Phillips swooped in and rescued my daughter and me right out of that victimization and took me and Kelly and all of our pets, our cows and horses and guineas and chickens, because people who abuse animals abuse children, people who abuse children abuse animals. It's just like no regard for life at all. And Mark knew that our animals had been abused too, so he rescued them too. But he came in and physically rescued us out of the situation and then took my daughter and I to the safety and serenity of Alaska, where he handed me the keys to my own mind so that I could begin remembering the things that I had been tortured to forget. So it's absolutely amazing.
And that is all in your book, PTSD, Time to Heal, Cathy O'Brien. You have to pick up a copy. So make sure you head over to the Trance website, trance-formation.com. All right, Cathy, we're going to watch a short clip, a trailer here of your must-see movie, Trance. Everybody tuning in, you'll be at the edge of your seat like I was. Watch this movie and get this information out to the masses.
My name is Cathy O'Brien, and I'm a survivor of MK Ultra mind control. The MK Ultra program was to ultimately control the minds of the population for implementing what Adolf Hitler first termed the New World Order. When girls reached age 30, they were murdered or they were sacrificed. I was going to be killed as well. I was to go out in a blaze of glory and be burned alive. I'm so fortunate that an intelligence insider who saw the kind of corruption that was going on in the highest levels of government decided to take action and rescued me and saved my life so that we could begin to expose what was being done.
You have so much information here. It's absolutely phenomenal. I wish I would have met you 2 decades ago. How many years have you been freed from MK Ultra?
Over 30. Mark rescued me in 1988, And when I turned 60, then that was the pivot point where from that point forward, I've been free more than I was controlled. So I celebrate my freedom every single day and never take free thought for granted. I cherish living the love that I am and being able to bring truth to light in a way that empowers others to reclaim their freedom too.
You are absolutely phenomenal. I know you're in a remote location, but I'm going to track you down. We've got to have lunch together and dinner and then breakfast and then dinner and lunch and everything. I need like a week with you, Cathy. Seriously. Thank you so much for having a voice, using it. And I'm very thankful that you did not land up at the Bohemian Grove. God's got a major plan for you.